Um, I think now we move on to the panel. And thank you all for joining us today. The panel is going to discuss the question, how do we understand supply chains through creative practice? What becomes possible when we understand supply chains, not just through research, law, or corporate disclosures, but through poetry, photography, art, and storytelling, just like Shikha was mentioning. And just to give you an overview, the way that we always talk about supply chains is as if they're technical systems that are just moving goods and services that we use every day. But beyond that, they're also lived systems shaped by people, their homes, their communities, their labor, and their everyday acts of survival and resistance. So, today we want to explore how creative practice can help us see supply chains outside the conventional lens, not only as sites of harm and exploitation, but as places where workers create meaning, resist erasure, document injustice, and imagine other futures. And we are very lucky to have three wonderful speakers with us today. First, we have Rahee, who's the art curator for Practicing Change. He's a visual artist, researcher, writer, and filmmaker based out of New Delhi. His practice revolves around questions of depiction, memory, and resistance, particularly in the context of the anti-caste movement and the Dalit community in India. His works have been exhibited extensively at different international venues, and he runs two community led initiatives, 14 Magazine and Maveli Publications. Second, we have Palani Kumar. He is a brilliant photographer whose work has powerfully challenged how working class communities, caste, labor, and everyday life are represented. He's a photographer with the People's Archive of Rural India, and his photographs have been exhibited in galleries around the world. And if you haven't already, you must follow his work on Instagram. And finally, we have the wonderful Emma Moolchand, a research fellow at Change Lab. She's a legal scholar and lawyer whose PhD work uses art and photography as a part of legal research to understand lived experience and gather evidence. Thank you all for joining us today. Rahi, I want to begin with you, and I want to start with the larger question behind this panel. Why do you think it's important to understand supply chains through art and creative practice? What can art help us see, feel, or question that more conventional forms of research may not?
Right. Um, Thanks, Nandita, thanks, Hila, and everyone here for having us. I think one of the, I mean, that's kind of the difficult question, isn't it? Like, like how we kind of translate, like so much of the corpus that gets created, like, like Shikha mentioned, like there is a capacity to formulate what the hard facts are, like what the reality is within academic corpus, but then like h- how that sort of like, like seeps outward, how that kind of disperses outward is the challenge, like, and within that dispersal is often where we see some kind of an accelerated like actual change happen, right? Yeah, so like I feel like navigating from that, like point A to point B, like in this process, like is something we have basically had, like had the cultural discourse shape, right? So in that sense, I would say that um, we are kind of like following on a path that has been established within labor networks, within history of like like marginalized communities who have like come together and like, within the formation of agitprop visuals, discourse, like that's how the culture kind of molds us, like into a place where the change becomes inevitable, right? Like, and so I guess like that's the path, right? Like that's the path. So yeah.
Right. Thank you, Rahi, for that. I want to move next to Parani. You are an incredible photographer. But photography itself is often shaped by unequal access. The camera, the platform, the power to represent, it usually sits with people who are from more privileged locations. And your work has challenged this in really powerful ways, including by working with young people from working class communities and enabling them to photograph their own lives and surroundings. Can you speak a bit about that process and what do you think researchers who often work with similar power dynamics should learn from your practice?
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. Thanks, Rahee. So right now I'm doing witnessing our communities live from studies. So right now we build photographer communities. Uh, we run one collective. It's called People Photographers Collective. So in long year back, who are the storyteller, who are the photographer, who are the people are pursuing photography in movie as well. Still now we doesn't have any authority of decision maker in mainstream media. It's a lot of questions in my mind. So last 10 years I'm practicing photography. I'm witnessing myself, my people, who are the people are facing a lot of problematic because of the caste. I met a lot of students in various places in Tamil Nadu. I have a lot of experience in my own also and living with oppressed communities. That's why we built the collective, documenting storytellings our start storytelling our their own voices. Because before the years, a lot of people talk about us in various methods and various, they can talk very easily for our stories. When you are going to be documenting, start telling our own stories in our own voices, when you're going to start this kind of beginning, it's very hard for us. It's not too easy. The cameras and pursuing journalism, totally expensive things. Totally expensive. I'm not studying journalism. So I am self-running persons. So uh, when I go into the field, this is my responsibilities. It's not a work. Witnessing, start writing about my people's stories, right? This is not a work. This is our responsibilities. We are also stand for the people. We need to be stand with my people. We are also fighting for the people. This is photography is always a fourth pillar of my people. So I'm always work with the field fighters. Field fighters are real heroes. They are also take up like life ideologies. I ideology is very important. Mostly I'm following Ambedkar ideology because this is very important for the society. Uh, Ambedkar did the entire life for the spent the entire life for the very, fight for the equality. So still now we are also facing a lot of problems with equality. That's why I am using photography medium, fight for the equality. I need to stand with the people. That's why we are also starting people photographers collective. Lot of youngsters not able to pursue the photography things, not able to get the camera things also. We are also providing camera, and we are also teaching the long term. We are doing a lot of workshop, not 2 days or 3 days. We are also doing long term workshop. We are also creating a lot of more journalists from the belongs to the oppressed communities or marginalized community students. They are also going to start telling their own stories in their own voices. We built some collective. A lot of researchers also came to me, asked me a lot of questions about why we are doing this, why we are building these communities. This is very important. So this is the first new thing. We are also start telling our stories, our own voices. Yeah.
That's really inspiring. And I love how you framed it that it's not work, but it's also a responsibility. And building that generation of journalists or storytellers from the ground as an important way to hold the narrative. That's a really important point, what you said there. And with that, I want to go to Emma. You come to this conversation from a legal background. Your PhD uses actually photography and creative practice as a way of gathering evidence and understanding lived experience. How did photography become a part of your methodology? And did it also help you also see, document, or understand things in new ways that if you did more conventional legal research would not have seen?
Thanks, Nandita. So photography, I think, became part of my research because I really felt that legal research alone couldn't capture what workers were living through. So when I was doing my PhD, I was looking at labor exploitation in the Australian supply chains in really low skill sectors where I was studying Pacific Island workers coming to Australia to work in the meat and cleaning sectors. So I was reading laws, I was reading corporate modern slavery statements, I was reading policies, all the usual legal documents. All those sources, they really matter, but what they do is they tell us what companies describe as risk, right? Like how law defines responsibility, how institutions speak about exploitation. But what these documents actually miss is often the everyday experience of work. So when we look at those documents, we don't really see how tired the body is after a really long shift. We don't see how lonely it is to eat dinner alone after working at the abattoirs for 12 hours. We don't really see how the fear comes up in speaking up when, for example, you're house hunting, you're in a new country, and how all your future feels connected to your employer because the people I was studying, their visas was really tied to the employers where there was really limited mobility as well. So through all those legal documents, you can't really see what it really feels like when you have to keep going because your family depends on you. And the reason that you're really crossing borders is to really send money back home. So this is where I use photography and where photography really became important. I use a methodology called photo voice. So participants in my research, they took photographs based on questions I would ask them. Some of them questions around modern slavery, but really crafted in the sense of how their everyday work life was looking like. Like, for example, transport, housing, food, their work clothes, surveillance, and also talks about racism at work as well. And I think that what came very powerful from those photographs was the meaning that came from the workers. They really explained how the image they were showing me, how it mattered to them and how it connected to their life and their work. So photography really helped me see this supply chain from the ground up, so from the bottom line. It showed me how exploitation is really found in those dramatic moments of abuse. It's not always like that. So it is often something that is lived in the ordinary routines of a worker. The fact that they have to wake up early, they have to travel long distance, they have to stay silent, they feel watched, they miss their family. But all you see through the photograph at the end of the day is they try to remain grateful as well because the job is kind of tied to their survival. So this is why, for me, I think photo voice really changed the question when I was doing my research. I was asking, so instead of me asking, has the law been breached? I started to ask, what kind of life is this legal and economic system producing for those workers? And this is why I see photography as a part of a feminist labor law method. So it expands what we count as legal knowledge. We allow through the photography taking and this method, it really gives the workers to become like interpreters of their own conditions. It helped also the wider community to often take seriously what the law struggles to show us, for example. Things like the body, household care, dignity, and it really, I think, shone light on the everyday organization of labor. And this is why I really wanted to put forward this methodology. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. That's super inspiring. I think if I ever did a PhD, your methodology sounds really inspiring to be something to consider. Moving on, Rahee, just building off what Palani and Emma right now spoke about, there is a long-standing tension in creative work, especially around labor, inequality, exploitation. work that is trying to bear witness can sometimes end up reducing people to their suffering. The viewer might feel some sort of shock, sympathy, but the person becomes flattened into that symbol of victimhood, poverty, or oppression. In curating art, photography, and visual language for practicing change, how are you navigating this risk? What does it mean in practice to make space for work that is not simply inviting sympathy for the worker, but helping the worker see helping people see workers with dignity, with agency, their context, and the political complexity?
So I think that's actually kind of a part of my larger practice where, like I deconstruct a lot of archival, like images from the archive to see how we kind of like carry on that legacy. And in many ways, like the answer is very straightforward in the way that like Palani and like Emma spoke, like you when the expression, the mode of expression automatically gets transferred to people who are active stakeholders within the conversation. The visual language changes, and that's what we see, right? Like when there is a person who is not aware of that context, who kind of like starts to create an artwork, there might be certain questions, certain like visual operations that one misses. But when somebody who's, let's say, from the community, like creates an artwork, writes a poem, right? Takes photos, as Palani so wonderfully like sort of enables. Like the visual language changes automatically. So I guess like the that a very simple answer would be that. And in some ways, like my practice has been to create a very active sort of like network of practitioners who are active stakeholders rather than practitioners who are not from within those spaces. So yeah.
Right. And please do go check out some of the art curated for practicing change by Rahee. They're quite brilliant, and a lot of that art comes from movement artists, coming from the Dalit rights movements and many other movements. Yeah, thank you, Rahee. And just going back to you, Emma, photography and all these visual methods, they are very powerful, as we heard from you. But there are also very serious ethical questions that come around consent, representation, safety, ownership, and also about images traveling beyond, their original purpose. So for researchers who are, working on labor law, supply chains, who want to use creative methods, what should they think about before they do something like what you're doing right now? When do you think these methods are actually useful, and when do you think they might not be really appropriate?
So yeah, it's true. Creative methods, I think, can be very powerful, but they have to be used with great care as well. So the first question I would say is safety. So in labor and supply chain research, photographs can create risk. So a photograph can reveal a workplace, a house, a face of a person, especially when we are investigating sensitive topic like modern slavery. And for workers on temporary visas who depend on their employer for their job or their house, the risk is really real. So before using photography, I think researchers should ask, could this photograph harm the person who took it? Could it expose them to retaliation? How does it affect their job, their visa, their community? And then the second question that comes in is consent. The consent has to be ongoing as well. It cannot only be a consent that it is only signed at the beginning. The participants, especially when working with vulnerable workers, participants need to understand and need to know where their images are going, who may see them. And they also have to have the right to have their mind changed. And the third question I'll be asking is about ownership and meaning. Researchers should never take an image from a participant and give it their own meaning without care. So the participant's explanation really matters. So in my research, the photograph opened one conversation and then the workers gave it meaning. So we did like a photograph session first, and then like a kind of focused group discussion, so we could expand more on what the photograph meant. And this created a more open and relational space, I would say, for workers to speak in their own way, at their own pace. And the fourth thing to think about is representation. There is always also a danger about creating creative work. When we speak about exploitation, we can turn people into symbols or suffering. And I think it's something that Shika touched upon at the beginning. And this is something researchers, I think, should actively resist. So the way that we view workers is really important. Workers are people with knowledge. They are people with humor. They are people with pride, with care, with skill. So they know the system probably more than us because they live in it. So the question I think we have to ask ourselves is, how do we want to portray those people? Do we want to show people with dignity and complexity, or are we allowing them to shape how they are represented, or are we listening to what they choose to say and also respecting what they choose to keep private? So all these questions really have to be worked out at the beginning. And these methods are really useful, actually, when you give the power back to the participants. And this is where trust, time, and the research design becomes all important. And these become inappropriate as well when also sometimes visibility increases danger. Sometimes when consent is weak, when images are used for shock, for example, or when the researcher becomes more interested in a powerful story instead than safety and dignity. So it's really important to know what's the purpose of your research and how you want to portray it. And for me, when I went through the ethics process, I think the ethical test is simple at this stage. I think the question you want to ask yourself is actually kind of a balance. Do you want this method, for example, to help workers speak with more control? If it does, then you should. Or do you want to portray only the abuse part of it and just make it like a powerful, sensational story? So this is where the ethical test lies, I think. And if you choose the first one, if you want to help workers speak with more control, dignity, and safety, it can be very powerful. And if it does not, for me, I think we should stop and we should just and move a different way, I think.
Thank you, Emma. That was brilliantly put and super, super helpful. And Palani, just building off that, like, some of the images of labor disasters and injustice has become a part of public memory. For example, the photographs that came after the Rana Plaza collapse in Bangladesh. It forced many people to confront the human cost of global supply chains, especially global fashion supply chains. In your view, what role do you think photography can play in changing how supply chains are seen, questioned, held accountable? Do you see photography as a tool to change supply chains? And if so, just like what Emma was just saying, are there certain practices we need to imbibe to make that happen?
Yeah, I'm not good with English. I need to say sorry for that, but yeah, photography is going to be change for big change, like but it's take a lot of time because right now I'm doing photography and teaching photography and documenting so many social issues in Tamil Nadu in India. Especially I'm doing manual scavenging issue in last 8 9 years. I'm doing, but still it's happening. Still, a lot of people last 5 years, 445 people have died in the manhole in India. We have a lot of technology, we have a lot of things. The government doesn't take care about that because who other people are working on it. So, and people are doing systematic violence to the people, a lot of working class people are affected so many things. Right now, in everywhere, a lot of issues going on there, the war kind of things and so many things going on. Photographers are doing the great job. That's why we are seeing a lot of images through the social media, through the Instagram, so many journalists lost their life, doing their real stories in the ground. Without photography tool, it's very hard to see this. So I believe my photography because it's always teach our life, like how we are doing. We need to be a mirror how they're, you know, you need to go to the ground. It's always teach you like how their people are living, how their people have suffered without telling any words. It's like visual movement. But when I start my photography career, so many people told me about how are we going to change the world. It's going to change, stop the world, the war kind of things. But it's still questionable. So we need to go to the people. We need to politicizing people is very important. Without political, we need to create, you know, politicizing for people ideology, people's brains. That way only going to be trying to get the change. They are also globally stand for the fight, stand for the inequality, stand for ethical things. Without politicizing our ideology, it's very hard to bring the change. Maximum, I need to tell about one example. One of my mentor, his name is another Stephen. He went in for an issue in Kodamangam issue. So he spent 6 months there in that place. He did not go to the he not get out to any place. He spent 6 months for the people, documenting the people's struggles, protesting so many things. I told him about we need to stand with the people with your photography. Don't think about the photographer. You should don't think about the frame. You should think about the people, how they are protesting, how they are suffered. People emotions is very important. Without concern, we cannot take photo, we cannot use any images. We need to think the people. So he shoot some photos. Police are attacking the people. He shoot from photos from people where the people are struggling, protesting. They're also facing the police side. He shoot from that photos. That time I really understand the photographer choosing the people side. So this is a very important. This is very important, and we need to do. We are also doing so many exhibitions also. We are also teaching photography with the kids. We are not in teaching photography. We are teaching politicizing the students. We are also engaged in a lot of exhibition. A lot of people came to me, asked me a lot of things. We are doing photography. I need to educate my people, like Ambedkar said, educate armies. So that time only we need to bring some little bit change. And we are also, my students also start telling of their own stories. They are also collecting a lot of things. In our Tamil Nadu, right now I'm working in Tamil Nadu, that's why I talk about Tamil Nadu only. We are also documenting various issues. First time, a lot of time I'm worried about I'm the only person documenting all against Dalit issues. I'm the one, anything happened, I'll go there. I'm the only person standing in front of my people. The people are praying, people are worried, people are protesting. No other medias came to the particular place. I'm worried about a lot of time. Right now, my students also take care of my responsibility also. They are also start telling their own stories. They are also documenting their violence, against the violence. Any issues right now, we go there. We are also witnessing first. Before the years, witnessing is very hard for us. Right now, we are also starting witnessing. Right now, we are also starting writing our own stories. If you are outsider, you can talk about my stories. You can write about my stories very easy. But when you are going to be start our own stories, it's very hard. It's publishing is very hard. If you are going to be write about our issue in the any mainstream media, when that time you're going to be lost your job. So a lot of people are facing, a lot of the people are, all oppressed people are facing a lot of things. That's why I really hopeful, like, you know, the photography is a very important tool right now we are all using social media right now, Instagram, Twitter. A lot of artists write about their own the issues, documenting their own issues. Without social media, we cannot bring out that particular issues. So still now we have a lot of hope because the photography is a very important tool to go to change the world, but it's take a lot of time. We need to be organized. We need to be fight back full. We need to be support the fourth pillar of the who are the people are really fighting in the ground. That time only we need to be changed. I'm always hopeful. I believe my photograph. That's why I build collective. That's why right now we do so many things, right? So the expensive things, buying camera. We are also still now. I'm also using second camera on. Backside, I have one printer. I have one library. I have everything. Educating people, politicizing people is going to be a change the world. We're going to change the supply chains. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Palani. That is so inspiring. And it's incredible the way you have built this practice. I think it's an inspiration for a lot of us, whether you are a researcher or an activist, how to bring in education, how to bring in activism, how to bring research, all of these together in a way that serves communities as the final goal. And with that, I want to ask my final question, which kind of builds off what Palani was saying. What is like to each all the panelists, like what is your hope for what practicing change can make possible? We know that no single platform can transform global supply chains. Just like Palani was like saying, we can all have dreams, but it's very difficult to make these changes. But if creative practice through art, photography, poetry, storytelling, or other forms is one small part of a much larger process of change, what kind of change do you hope this platform can contribute? And maybe Rahi, we can start with you and then go to Emma and Palani.
So I think one of the like one of the clarities that comes like that came to me like was when I was speaking with Divya for Divya who's here like who we're going to hear from very soon. Like when I was speaking with her about the days that led to the Dindigul agreement, like like there sort of like is a scenario where when you are cornered, when you are a marginalized body fighting against immense systems. Um, I think I went off for a second. Like, hi, can everyone hear me? Nandita, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. No, so I think at that specific point, this whole idea that that there is this like like behemoth that we are kind of fighting against, like, but then there are ways of like influencing that fight from the outside, right? Like like in the sense that like the one of the reasons for that Divya attributed to like getting a lot of strength and resolve and attention to the issue was when the question was covered as an article in Guardian, right? Like, so what happens is that there is actually this like like this research that's happening. There are people who are in the like global north who have extensively done this research, who are like who want the same things as the workers, as the people who are the marginalized bodies within the supply chain. But then this connection doesn't happen. Like I'm hoping that this connection happens like through the website, because like with that process like when you get this resolve that hey, like there are people who are in a position of like like some access, who are like like willing to back me, that kind of allows for a conversation, a resolve, a renewal of the resolve, right? I'm hoping that's what happens, at least some of it. Yeah.
Thank you, Rahi. Emma?
Um, yes, so I think my hope would be very simple. I really hope that through practicing change, we help people to see the human life which is inside their supply chains. The reason I say it is because in my research, what stayed with me actually was really the workers' stories, their photographs. It can be just probably their photograph of just a clock. So every time I would look at a clock, I would think about what they told me about their story of a clock. And this really showed me what the law actually really struggled to show. So my hope is that this platform really gives space to those voices. I hope we really help us actually to listen to workers as people with knowledge, like I said before, people with experience and people with power. And I really hope that practicing change even probably helps even a little to make the workers a little bit more heard and respected for how they matter. They really matter because behind every supply chain, there is a human being. And I think that human being deserves to be seen. And I really hope practicing change is that place where they will be seen.
Thank you, Emma. That's beautiful. Yes, Palani.
Yeah. So many people told me about journalism. It's called Voice for Voiceless People. So somebody is going to be able to hear our voice. So I need to be changing different things. So voiceless people make into the voices. This is very important. So we need to be create more people from the voiceless side, oppressed and marginalized communities. So I have a lot of experience when I doing my photographies. I think different way. I'm mainly I'm focused on people are poor, people are thinking about very hardworking. But when you're going to be doing some workshop with my kids, they are also documenting their life. They are also happy. They are also spending more time with the people. They are also seeing different sides. This is very important. People are worried. People are struggling, but people are enjoying. They are also spending quality time with the kids. Something else. They're spending quality time. But the journalism media doesn't care about that. So we are always suffer. We need to be suffer. We need to be people. We need to be show like that. So when I'm going to doing workshop, when I'm going to give it to the camera to my students, so my way of seeing totally change. Don't think about the one side. We should think about the whole, how other people are living. We need to bring some people from the community peoples. So we need to create more journalists, more photographers into the communities. And we need to bring some opportunity to them. It's very helpful for the better changing like. Yeah.
Lovely words. Thank you so much, Rahee, Palani, and Emma, for such a rich and thoughtful discussion. What I'm taking from this conversation is that creative practice is not an add-on to research, law, or organizing itself. It opens entirely new ways of seeing, feeling, and experiencing supply chains. And sometimes it's that experience, that image, the poem, the story, the sound, that memory. That's what changes how we think about supply chains and our own relationship to them. And if creative practice is done well, it asks us not just to be spectators to harm, as Palani was saying, but to see ourselves as people who are connected to these systems and therefore are capable of questioning them, acting within them, and changing them for the better. And as we launch Practicing Change, we hope this platform can become a space for that kind of seeing, questioning, collaboration, and imagination. Thank you again to